Hey guys, Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and we are nearing the end of the Gnut fusion. And I gotta say, I want to make a point that I think not a lot of creators, maybe they are, maybe they're not. I've seen a few videos, but I don't think there's enough noise being made about this. Some of these events have been brutal, but not the events we normally look to. I don't really feel like the Dungeon Divers events, excluding the one that is currently on, has been too difficult because they generally have been longer and they generally cross 2 tournaments. So if you were running your efficiency charts correctly, you could basically do things like you could start your spider in one kind of Dungeon Divers and then end it with the Ice Golem, and then you could end the Ice Golem in the start of the Dungeon Divers and end it with Fire Knight, right? You could double dip that way. So I think around about 3,000 points doing that is probably okay, because you'll probably complete the Dungeon Divers if you spent your time doing the dungeons during the Dungeon Divers with a few excess points on top. The one that is really, for me, got to the point where it's egregious is the Artifact Enhancement events. This fusion has pretty much been, you've got an Artifact Enhancement event, you take 1 day off, and then you've got another Artifact Enhancement event. And they're setting the value of the rare at 4,775 points, which is basically the last reward. I mean, it's really high up. So what I did is I actually went back and I looked at the previous fusions to see what kind of points were we actually getting in order to determine, like, you know, how much more are we actually having to spend? Because a lot of people talk about like event inflation, you know, divers has got really hard and lots of different things. I actually am in the camp where I think the divers has got harder in terms of more points because they've extended the duration of the Dungeon Divers, with the exception of this one here, right? This one is an exception. 3,700. Look, I know it's a void rare, but really it's no more value than the non-void rares, right? This guy is a means to an end for a lot of players. It should be where the void superior potions are, not another 500 or 600 points here. So you can see I'm on my main account at the moment, and I've done the Fire Knight tournament, I did the Ice Golem tournament, I did it efficiently as I could, and I'm having now to burn stuff in Spider. One, because I need the silver for the Artifact Enhancement, but two, you know, we still need another like 1,000 Dungeon Diver points here, right? It's probably going to be another 10 refills, another 400 gems for me to get this completed. Obviously, we need it for the Gnut. So what I did is I just went back and I looked at the Artifact Enhancement events of previous fusions. So what you can do is you can come along to Hellhades.com, and in the menu we have a past fusion events page. Now this event page basically has every single fusion that we have ever had in the game that we have a fusion guide for. So it goes back, I think, all the way to like 2021. And you can see we have them in chronological order, where we basically, you know, have the link to where I have a little bit of a thing. You can click the button, the link there to go through to the fusion guide. So what this allows me to do here right now is I can look back at all of our different fusion guides that we release every single sort of fusion that comes out. It logs all of the different requirements on a daily basis, and we can have a look to see, you know, what the point requirement change has been. Now, obviously, there needs to be some consideration for the fact that some are epic champions, some are legendary, so you know the quantity and like the length of the event will change. We also have event models being a traditional fusion, a fragment fusion, and sometimes that hybrid fusion that we all dislike. So let's just take a look. I've just copied a few links out here. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the Jetney fusion. Let's see if we can eyeball some of the schedule in here. So this one had, by the looks of it, if we open up the picture here, 1 artifact enhancement event, 3 artifact enhancement events for the fusion. Obviously you can get some extra fragments here from the summoning, but let's just assume you had to do all 3. How many points did you need for each and single one? This one had a 4,775, also a another 4,775, and I think right at the end there was another 4,800. So that one seems to be more. Like the one we've had now for Gnut has been 3 times 4,775s, but you can see there's been a good gap between these events. So this one ended on the Tuesday, then it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then it started on the Saturday. So you basically had like 4 days off. This one was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then it started on Friday. So again, it was a couple of days off. Keep in mind the Gnut has basically been you end one and the next one starts the next day. You just had no gap whatsoever. So that one's about the same. Let's have a look at Razelvarg here. What have we got? What have we got going down here? We can see Razelvarg. Razelvarg had 1, 2, and 3. So 3 seems to be a theme here. This was a traditional fusion as well, so we can actually compare it and we can say, okay, 4,775. There's 1, 4,775. So it seems to be the same thing. Again, we're looking at 4,775. What's the gap like? We can see that ended on Tuesday. The next one starts on Friday, so it's a bit closer. That one ended Monday. The next one started Wednesday. So this one was much closer, a bit like what we've got now. Then we have Supreme Elhain here. Again, what have we got going on? 3 artifact enhancements again here. So again, it seems to be like they like to put 3 in. What's the artifact enhancement points here? 4775, 4775. So recently they've been that bad. Oella, I think, is also the same case here with his 4775s, and I think there is 3 as well. 1, 2, only 2 artifact enhancements in Oella, and Oella was at 4775 as well. So 2 is like a third less silver. That's what you got to think when you're looking at these. These are all silver farming requirements, which you will get from some dungeon divers, but eventually I think there's a break point where you start to have to go get the silver rather than just naturally getting it. In the Pythian one here, what have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3. So we've got 3 artifact enhancements here. What was the point requirements? 4775, 4775, and then we seem to be missing a few days here. So 4775 for the Pythian. What about Gnishak, the Christmas fusion? What has he got going on? So in here we have got 1, 2, 3 artifact enhancements, and it looks like some sort of, I think this must be a hybrid fusion model. So what have we got for the artifact enhancement here? We've got 4,000 points. So this is 775 points less on this one. So we've seen a difference. We've got an artifact enhancement here, which is 4,000 as well. So this one seems to be missing a load of dates as well. So I'll have to get Never to have a look at what's gone on there. Hoscals are rare, obviously an epic, which means obviously there's only going to be 1 event. What did they put this one at? 4,000. So a lot less. Morrigan. Don't really know why these skills are majorly big there. Let's have a look what's going on down here. Morrigan, we had 1, 2, 3. So seems to be always 3, but 4,000 points. Again, down here, we've got 4,000 points. So we went from 4,000 to 4,775, which is a massive increase. What do we got here then? We've got Marinix. Marinix has got an artifact enhancement 1, 2, and 3. So that means, again, 4,000 points. So it seems to be at the turn of the year, they hiked up artifact enhancement points to 4775 from what they were. When Mighty Uko was out here, what did we have? We had 1, 2, there was only 2 on this one. Artifact enhancement was 4,000 points. Negorio, we only had the 1 artifact enhancement that was at 3,300. If we look at Lonatharl, which is around about a year ago, what did Lonatharl have? He was a fragment fusion. It was a traditional fusion. He was a hybrid fusion, if I remember correctly. What has he got going on here? 3,300. So in the space of 12 months, or even less than that, 6 months, we went from 3,300 per fusion schedule. What have we got here? 3,300. So in the space of 12 months, or 6 months if you think that was in August and they started hiking it at the end of the year, they've gone from 3,300 average in the artifact enhancement. Okay, this one was 4,300. This one was 5,300. God, that's an insane one, these events here. This was the Helicath one. They've gone from typically 3,300 to 4,775. Now, let me just explain what that means in silver, in actual resources that you need to spend. So I can go back to some of the hero path analysis that I did when we were looking at the artifact enhancement comparisons with hero paths for when artifact enhancement was in the path. And I've got a table here which basically gives you the estimated silver cost of you acquiring sort of the required points, right? How much silver on average it costs you to get an artifact to 0 to 16, 0 to 12, 0 to 8, and 0 to 4. This is based on the way that the game calculates the mercy system as well. It was math that was done by Senti like a while ago, but I trust his math down to a T, so I'm pretty sure this is pretty accurate. But basically on average, it takes around about 1.79 million silver to take an artifact from 0 to 16. So we can actually use that as a math analysis as well. So if we look at this as a 3,300 point marker, you can see on average you need to probably get like 8 artifacts that are rank 6 up to the required level 16. So if you did it in main gear, so not jewelry, not accessories, it would cost you somewhere in the region of 14 million silver. Jewelry, 21 million silver, because we know jewelry is more expensive to upgrade. That's if you did the path where you went 0 to 16 fully. If you went 8 to 16, well, you're looking at 13.9 million. A little bit of a saving. You still need 8, but not crazy. If you were doing 12 to 16 million, you'd save yourself somewhere in the region of 700,000 to a million, depending on whether you're doing jewelry. So, 14 million if you've got 13 events. That's what, 14, let's call it 15, 30, 45 million silver, okay? That's basically what we were saying an August 2022 fusion would require, roughly somewhere in the region of 45 million silver, which, in itself is actually quite a lot. But if it's reasonably spaced, then I think it's okay, right? If it's reasonably spaced out, I think it's okay. But if it's not, then obviously that could be a bit of a problem. Now, if we look at the end of sort of like when we started climbing a bit towards the end of the year in Gnishak, one, basically call it December 2022, it jumped to 4,000 point requirement. So if we increase this to 4,000, we can see now it's going to go to 17 million, 16.9 or 16 million if you did 12 to 16, right? Somewhere between 16 to 17 million. So it's about a 3 mil step up per event. So if we're going to do the math again here, we can basically say it's about 48 million. So that's basically like 8% increase in cost. But now that we've reached sort of like the Oella fusions, like it's what, July this year, now we're basically getting 3 at 47.75. And that really does just keep ramping it up. So now we're at basically 20.4 million or 19.3. The average player is probably going to take 8 to 16. So it's going to be somewhere in the region of around about 20 million a run. So that's now basically 60 million we need to hit. In order to do this on a single fusion, right? We're talking single fusion silver costs, as in if they do 3 events, which they typically like to do, we now need to do 3 million. We need to do 60 million. So again, we can work out the percentages of this, doing a bit of live math. And we can see that in the space of 3 months, we've increased the actual silver cost of a fusion by 33%. That's a hell of an increase, considering they haven't really, on mean terms, increase the amount of energy you can acquire beyond some promotional codes around Call of the Arbiter and a bit of different things. Like Call of the Arbiter's promotional code yesterday was 150,000 silver. I need 60 million in a month. 150,000 not even going to get me like 1 8 level upgrade. It's just such a small amount. So we got 60 million silver here. That's like a huge increase. We haven't had any energy gains apart from those promotional codes. We haven't seen that mythical gear has resulted in us having more income from those dungeons. It's not like they've added new ways to get more silver. They've just carried on the way that they were. Ice Golem still has most of the sets with a campaign penalty. So when you run Ice Golem to complete a tournament, you get about half the amount of silver that when you run Fire Knight, because Fire Knight doesn't have the campaign sets. So there's no consistency between the dungeons. You can spend time in Spider Tournament, great, but you need your energy to complete the other dungeons. You can't skip Ice Golem 9 times out of 10, because skipping events is actually quite difficult to do these days. So you have to have done the Ice Golem. You're doing that at a silver deficit to when you do Spider or Fire Knight. Same a little bit with Dragon, but not as bad. It's about halfway between the two. So it's not like they can say, well, Mythical Gear came out and it increased the amount of silver you generate on average. You just don't generate 33% more silver in the game. The inflation doesn't correlate with more ways to make silver. So I'm quite worried about this because I've been feeling it, this fusion. I've like a lot of people talk about dungeon divers, a lot of people talking about different things. I'm looking at the artifact enhancement on both the free to play and my main account going, I never have enough silver. I never have enough silver to play the game that I want, because it's not even like I'm upgrading artifacts that are benefiting my account. Now I'm literally just upgrading artifacts because I need the points, because I need the champion, because if I don't get the champion, I cannot do the fusion. So what I would like to do in this video is make a bit of a plea and say to player, look, if you want to inflate the cost of artifact enhancements, absolutely fine. But you must inflate the income at least in one location. So perhaps can we just get rid of the penalty of those campaign sets in both Dragon and Ice Golem, so at least farming any dungeon, with the exception of Spider, because obviously accessories sell for more, is consistent. So at least we don't feel like we're being punished for farming Ice Golem, which, to be honest, you've buffed the sets in that dungeon to make it feel more worthwhile. But you've got to give us other incentives to run it as well, right? That's a good starting place. That would restore about 15% of this 33% you want us to get, because we will be able to farm exactly the same way that we farm Fire Knight. Now, I know there'll be some people in chat going, well, you just play the game, I get enough silver, I don't know what you're complaining about. this is why I created the free-to-play. I wanted to experience the game, not as someone who sits there with 13,000 gems that can just burn Spider for a little bit of silver, but as someone who probably doesn't have the resources available to them to just burn more silver. And I'm looking at it from a free-to-play perspective going, I literally have to ration my silver and delay my upgrading and stop playing the game a little bit because I know I'm going to hit this wall that I've got to breach, and it might take me all of my evening to do it just to get me over the line, because it's going to expire. Like, I'm recording this now just before I start streaming in about an hour, in about sort of 30 minutes time. So it's late here in the UK, and I know I've got to do it on both accounts at the moment. So I'm farming Spider 20 on my main account, which I can do in 10 seconds. Great, but I don't really want to do like gem excessive burning on my free to play when I just don't have I don't want to do that. I want to spend those gems on improving my account. So, you know, you could argue that the Fusion Champion improves your account. I'm not saying that, but I just definitely think I'm looking at this going, you've increased the artifact enhancement costs by 33%, but you haven't actually given us the inflation in the way that we can get that silver either. You've inflated the points, but not actually given us a means to get more silver. So, yeah, that's my one thing. My plea is, can we remove the campaign penalty from the sets that you can farm out of dungeons? Because that would help tremendously. There you go, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you have found the worst about this fusion. For me, it's the artifact enhancements. That's really kind of been brutal. And probably this last Dungeon Divers, because I feel like that's just one level too high. Let me know in the comments below if you found this fusion easy. I know a lot of people have said it has been. Some people have said it hasn't been. So it's good to hear your opinions. As usual, if you like these videos where I do a bit of a math analysis and a bit of a dive into sort of the trends and where we're going and whether or not things are being kind of snuck under the door, hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of the videos. And of course, hit the bell notification so that you get notified straight away and it'll come straight into your feed. But thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you in the next video.